Hello friends, hope you're doing awesome. My name is Sabramowicz and I am here on a Friday. I'll set you up for a magical weekend. Hope everything's going good. Hope your week was good. Now, the reason I wanted to talk to you today is because I think that we all should spend the weekend thinking about the two most important key ingredients to create an interactive experience. And I'm going to talk about something, a game that you're probably familiar with. And if you're here, don't forget to wave. I love when people visit and ask me questions while I'm doing these lives. So, have you heard of the game called Firewatch? Now, it's a beautiful game, fantastic user interface, and also a great story. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we're all incorporating into the learning experiences, the interactive episodes that we're designing. And those are the things that we actually talk about during the cohorts that I'm running to design your own interactive learning episode. Because when you really think about it and you deconstruct what's out there in the real world that's getting some crazy traction and people are really resonating with, and that really attracts people for long periods of time, you have to look at what's outside of learning right now to actually get a sense of what really engages people and what is meaningful. And the reason I think you have to do that is because our world, the instructional design, the learning experience design world, the learning and development and training world is very it can become an echo chamber, and it's dangerous for us to base everything that we do on research without application. It's dangerous for us to only listen to people who have tested and done things in our world and not stepped out of the world of games, of storytelling, of basically designing software. We have to go outside of our world to bring in innovation. And we have to go outside of our world in order to get good data. Because my friends, a lot of us, whether we hand off a project after it's done and it just goes away and we never get to see it on or iterate on it ever again, or what happens is we get some data, but it's such a small scale number that we can't actually necessarily draw any real conclusions from the trends, right? Maybe we have a learning management system that gives us 200 user results, and it's not enough. So we got to go outside. We got to go outside to the industries that are doing amazing things, engaging people in the most meaningful ways. And one of them I wanted to bring to your attention is called the game Firewatch. So Firewatch is like, you can play that game. I don't know if you have. It's fantastic. It's got a narrative, and the narrative is driven by you making a choice sometimes between one or two decisions. Two very compelling decisions, right? So this is what I wanted to bring to your attention. If you go to YouTube and you look up Firewatch Part 1, Almost Too Beautiful, it has, this is crazy, it has a, hi Alina, this game, which is basically you stumbling around in a magical world. It's like a desert. And also now in the background is a narrative where you get two options. Choose one or the other. This game and the walkthrough, not even the game itself, has to date, I just want to double check, it has almost 6 million views. The video of the walkthrough is, I gotta check how long it is. It's an hour. That's just part one. So one of the things that we fall into as we're designing learning is, like I said, we live in our own little echo chambers, and sometimes what can happen is we start to believe the things that are bouncing back, and we believe them to be true without actually testing things out in the real world. So when I tell you that a game where you only have two options to choose from, there's no branching really, you have two options to choose from, and there's a story in there, and it's all text driven, There's no fancy UI. You are actually making a decision from text. Has 6 million views and people watched it for an hour. We have to start questioning what's happening in our industry as far as why are we believing that people have attention spans of 30 seconds and we have to create everything that is micro or they won't be able to stick around. There's something to be said for short, as I call them, and I pulled this from the humanitarian industry. They call them skill pills, where they have short videos that share a skill. But to believe that people do not have attention spans, or that to believe that everything now has to be shortened because they are distracted, is actually disputed by the fact that we see people watching walkthroughs of interactive stories for an hour. 6 million people, to be exact. So what's going on? Are we looking at the wrong things? Are we looking at listening to things that maybe are being driven by certain companies that sell, maybe they sell microlearning, maybe it's driven by people who don't have the experience of designing things that are more immersive and they've simply given up and now said, you know, it's got to be short, it's got to be punchy because otherwise people are just going to give up. You have to be careful about the assumptions that you're making as far as people's brains and how they learn and what engages them. And when you look at what really engages people, and YouTube is a great example, there are some elements that we can borrow now from these other industries, the gaming industry, which has tons and tons of users and data, and other industries like the storytelling and the movie industries, which give us an idea of how immersive something can be if you use the right elements. Here are the right elements. These are the two things you have to learn to use in your learning. Narrative, which is story, and giving people agency, which is the fact that they're able to make decisions. So what happens is when you combine these two powerful things together into your interactive learning episode, what happens is you're combining two of the most powerful elements for engagement. And we are story creatures. We are engaged by narrative. We are engaged by trying to figure out what happens next. And so this part is super, super interesting. That's why, something like Firewatch works, because there's a story in the background. There's a goal, there's a mission, there's something to be discovered. It's interesting because of that purpose. And then the other thing that makes it just absolutely addictive is the idea that you're not only a part of the narrative and the story, you get to make decisions. Whether or not those decisions take you down a path that really would be alternate is not important. What is important is that you are given the power to make them, and that is huge. How many times have you been through learning where it's a passive experience? The reason we call it passive is because, my goodness, you're just sitting there. There's not only is there no narrative, right, usually, but in learning, but there's also no way for you to have any kind of autonomy and agency to make a decision of what's going to happen next. So when you make something decision driven, and when you also overlay story on top of that, boom, it's like two amazing things that are going to basically it's an irresistible formula. There's no getting around it. Story, narrative, plus the agency you give to the participant and to give them a chance to make decisions. What is life? Life is decisions, right? So when you think about how can you combine these two powerful strategies into a single thing called an interactive learning episode. Boom, you're done. So when people tell me, they're dressing up slides, they're making things more punchy and interactive, I say throw that away, because really, if underneath you have a powerful story and you have really a profound way for people to actually make great decisions, you're set. You're set. Whatever you put over top, whatever user interface you put over top, whatever font interface, all that stuff, bonus. But if you have those two key elements, you are winning. It is amazing. It is amazing what you can achieve. In fact, Firewatch is proof that basically what happens is You've got 6 million people willing to watch somebody else make decisions, because that's how interesting decisions and storytelling is, that you're willing to actually not even do it, you're actually willing to watch somebody else make decisions. That's how powerful that is. Now, if that's interesting, imagine if you give them the power to make the decision, right? That's what you need to do for your learners. Integrate stories and then give them the power to make decisions within those stories. Bow. You want behavior change? Here you go. This is it. So as far as I'm concerned, really, those two strategies that's where the magic is. That's where the secret sauce is. And most people are kind of ignoring this because, like I said, we live in an echo chamber of best practices that aren't really best practices. They're just studies. We got to look outside of our world, outside of our L&D world, outside of the companies that are trying to sell us certain kinds of solutions, and actually look at what really engages people. And so if this is something that you're super interested in, or it's starting to click and you're like, yeah, I get that, because you probably are a person who enjoys stories. You probably are a person who enjoys making decisions. Well, if you are, guess what? So are your learners. You got to be, they're not different than you. They're not like, they don't have different brains. They also have storytelling brains. They also love making decisions in a safe place because it's fun. It's interesting. 6 million people saying, heck yeah, it is interesting. So if this is something you want to get really good at, keep on watching these lives. Keep on watching this stuff, because this is the magic. This is how you get good at it. The other way you get good at it is to actually build something of your own. So if you have a project coming up that you really want to incorporate these kinds of strategies, then you should join our Next May cohort, because really the goal is for you to take all of this stuff that's awesome, but not really intuitive to people who are in learning, because we're never taught this stuff. This is coming from, software development that's engaging and gives people agency is not intuitive to us because it's not a part of our world. And also it's new, right? So this is the place where you want to just get in basically at ground zero and actually start building up your skill set to start incorporating these kinds of practices into all kinds of learning, because like I said, this is the sauce, and many people are not even using it because they don't know how, and they're afraid, and also they've been told a bunch of lies about what makes an engaging learning. And it's not the fact that you keep it short and punchy, or you have a bunch of fun things pop up and distract you. It's really about getting immersed in an awesome story that means something to you, that you can resonate with, and then make decisions to see what happens. That is cool. That is engaging. Our next cohort is starting on May 21st. If this is something that you want to get awesome at and join our next group, then I'll put a link underneath the video. Basically, it's to book a call with me so I can find out where you're at, what your big vision is, where you want to take this, and then see if it's a good fit and if you want to join us. So I hope you have a awesome Friday, because that's what it is today, my friends. And have a great weekend. Think about all this stuff. Maybe I'll talk to you again next week. I will. Unless you schedule a call, then we'll definitely talk. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care, friends. And thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it.